This is Lawrence from Fit 52. We are going to do squat variations today. We're going to start right with the most basic variation, and we're going to work our way up to harder and harder variations until we do a one-legged squat that I have never featured before on this channel as our hardest variation. But for now, we are going to start with that chair. So a few basics before we get started. When we're doing a squat, there's a few things we need to remember. We always want to watch our body positioning. So one of the first things we need to do is brace our core. So by doing that, what we're doing is we're tightening up our body all the way around. So not only our abdominals, but our low back, our hips, our pelvic floor. And by our pelvic floor, what I mean is that we're going to, if you're a guy, you're going to like pull up your boys a little bit. If you're a girl, you're going to do like a Kegel. So you have that whole area just tensioned. So you're keeping your back in that very natural position. As well as you want to make sure your spine's correctly aligned with your neck. I have a bad habit when I squat of looking up, and that misaligns my neck a bit. Looking down, again, your neck is misaligned. You want to be looking straight ahead. And then you also want to make sure that your knees are tracking over your feet. You don't want them coming forward. You'll know they're starting to come forward because you'll feel yourself going on the balls of your feet. And you want to always stay flat-footed and kind of drive through the heels. Down, touch the chair, come back up. You don't want to be sitting right on the chair. You just want to touch it and then back up. Now, if you do end up sitting on the chair, it's actually not a big deal. It's actually called a box squat. And when you do sit on the chair, what happens is when you relax your legs from sitting on the chair and then you tension them to go back up again, it kind of helps that mind-muscle connection a bit. So it's not the end of the world if you end up having to do that. But what you do have to make sure you do is if you do happen to sit on the chair, you keep your core tight. Because everyone has a habit to relax when they sit in a chair, because that's what we normally do. So if you end up coming and sitting down, then you want to make sure that core stays tight before you go back up. So the next two variations I'm going to show you are pretty basic. But you move from having the chair behind you to having the chair in front of you. Now you're just going to use the chair now for basic stabilizations. You can't really grab onto it, right? Because it's going to move. But you're just using it for a little extra stabilization as you go down in the squats. You can kind of put your hands onto the chair just to kind of stabilize yourself a bit as you go down. Okay, so if you don't have a chair, or you might find, especially if you have a tendency to lean too far forward, you can also use a wall. You may find this a bit more comfortable. So just put your hands up against the wall and then squat down. Same thing, you're just using it to stabilize yourself, especially if you have a tendency to move forward. Having the wall there really helps. So you just come down, and using that wall just helps you perfect your form and positioning just a little bit more. So now we are on to an unassisted squat. We're trying to go parallel to the ground. That's something I didn't mention with the chair squat. When you choose a chair, you're trying to choose a chair so that when you come all the way down and touch the chair, your quads are parallel with the ground. Exactly the same form. Tighten everything up just like you would with the chair squat. And then go down, trying to stay parallel here to the floor best you can, and then back up again. You just repeat that for your required number of repetitions. If you want to make it a little bit harder, you just come down, and then when you come up, don't quite lock out. So you keep the tension on your quads, and that'll just make it a little bit harder. Now for a standard squat like this, you're putting your legs basically parallel with your shoulders or a little bit wider. The next variation after that I'm going to show you is the sumo squat. And with the sumo squat, the only real difference between your regular squat and a sumo squat is the position of your feet. You're just going with a wider stance. Your toes are slightly farther out. And this actually, what it does is it hits your glutes, your hamstrings, and kind of your adductors a little bit more. You tighten your core. You're looking forward, keeping your spine in a natural position, coming down to parallel, and then back up again. You just have that wider stance, so it hits the muscles slightly different. So it's another one to add into your program. So next we're going to move into a split squat. That's really our introduction into a single leg squat. The next squats here are all single legs. So we're moving into the slightly more advanced variations so that we're using the whole body weight on one leg. We're going to start with a split squat. So you take your one foot, just step it forward, bring your other one back, same thing. You're tightening up the whole core, looking straight forward, neutral position for the spine, and down we go, looking for that parallel, and then back up again. So here we move on to the Bulgarian split squat. It adds the extra challenge of a bit more stabilization with your rear foot raised. I always find one of the biggest things is the setup. Making sure that you're the right distance away from the chair. If you're too far away, you're not going to be able to get down into that parallel position. If you're too close to the chair, your knee ends up tracking over your foot and it can be hard on your knee. So that's a bit of a practice. You get used to finding that position. Once you've got it, if you work out in the same place, it might not even hurt to put a little piece of tape on the floor or pace it out so that you can get the setup right every time. I'll just demo one here quick. You'll have seen me do this in other videos. It's one I like to do a lot. Now we're going on to our final variation. This is the drum roll one. Check it out. So this one is called a shrimp squat. It's a single leg position. I really like it. It's one I'm going to add into a workout here on this channel fairly soon. But for now, I'm just going to give you this little teaser. And there we go, the shrimp squat. So this is Lawrence from Fit and 50. Keep working out. Keep finding fun ways to advance your exercises to the next level. And we will talk to you again in that next video.